Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful Africam show. The voice coming to you behind the camera today is Ali, and that sweet little creature that you're looking at just pecking in the water is a tiny chick of a blacksmith lapwing. I think we're viewing the Crocodiles today, and today's show is going to be all about commenting and addressing all of the things that appear in real time and all the different cameras across the world. That is a beautiful size comparison. I like it when things work out. We've got the little one, and then of course that is one of the parents at the back. Now remember, this is a live and interactive show, so I am coming to you in real time as the Blacksmith lapwing. So if you've got any comments or any questions, or you want to say hi, please just remember that you can do so. Much prefer to have a conversation going with everybody else. It does seem like we've had some hellos and some greetings, so I'm just going to get across to them and just see who's joined us already for the day before we start talking about that little fluff ball that's just walking away. It's too cute. So we've got greetings to everyone. Sun and warmth. Spring is here. Oh, that's nice. I can't wait for actually autumn to be here. Hedgehog out of her house and snuffling worms. Oh, that's adorable. Sukiri from the UK. That is very, very sweet. I wish I could see a hedgehog. They are common or native to Africa, and you do find some of them around this area, but I've never seen them. Was that good? You're saying hello, Ali Olivieri. Well, hello to you. And same as Kaoru, who's also saying hi, Ali. Canadian, you're saying good morning from BC, Canada. I bet it's just a tiny little bit colder than what it is here. So today we have decided to start with this oh, there's some impala coming there. You can see the reflection. We started with the two Blacksmith lapwings, but there's only one chick that we can see. So when initially I was talking to Curse, who's, you know, the mastermind behind the the voice, let's call her that, she mentioned that initially there were 3 that were born, and then 2 that were still around, and then only and 1 that had unfortunately succumbed. You can see 2. Where do you see the second chick, Kirst? Oh, I see it now. Okay, I'm going crazy. I see it now. I don't know why. I think I had my screen moved a little bit too far, and that's why I wasn't seeing the one on the far right. Okay, good. I was just, you know, killing one of them in advance, but the 2 are already there. So as Kirst was saying, there were initially 3. But it seems like one of them was unfortunately squashed by elephants, which sadly enough is something that happens somewhat commonly to blacksmith lapwings. They are generally found very close to the water's edge or in and around water, and they lay their eggs in the grass. So their eggs are actually speckled to help with camouflage, and the little ones, when they're born, they're also speckled, and the idea is for them to not be able to be seen by potential predators. The problem is that because they are so small, when you have big animals like elephants that go absolutely crazy when they start approaching the water, and then they start running and trumpeting and being very excited, sometimes what happens is that the elephants actually squash them. And I wish I could say that I haven't seen this before or that I haven't heard of this happening before, but unfortunately it is quite common. So much so that one of the defense mechanisms for the parents, which is the one on the left, is actually to start mobbing the elephants and getting very annoying at them and then flying it so that they can try and divert them from their course. So unfortunately, one of them didn't manage to make it, but at least we've got 2 little tiny fluff balls that are so cute. It's just walking around. Look at you. I love them. I think they're so cute. Is there anything better than a tiny little animal? I mean, it's quite late in the season or in the summer for them to have chicks. Most of the animals or a lot of the birds tend to have their peak breeding during the summer times. And we've had lots of rain this year, as you've managed to see in some of the camps. We've had a cyclone. We've got all sorts of things that have been happening that, of course, have aided in animals finding more food potentially. And then maybe for some species, better conditions to reproduce more than once. That is so sweet. Look, it's a walk in the dam. And if you heard that ding ding, that is why the bird is called the lapwing, because it resembles when a blacksmith is working with an anvil, and it's just that characteristic ding ding. Oh, thank you for doing it. That's very kind of you. We've got some more hellos that I haven't gotten to. So we've got Aussie Jan 2 saying hello, coffee time. Yigal Bosian, hello from Israel. I hope I'm saying your name right. Dia NC, good morning from a cloudy Seattle. You've got your coffee and you're ready for the show. Look at how many people have got their coffees ready. Jan Powers, you're saying hello from sunny and hot Arizona. And Carolyn Morgan, you're saying hello from Texas. We've got quite an international group joining us today. And as you can see, today's been a bit of an overcast day. So it's perhaps looking a little bit darker than what it should. I live not too far actually from where the Crocodiles is, and kind of looks like that here too. I think we're starting maybe to change into the season, and we've got a cold front coming, which means that a lot of clouds are going to come, and then it's going to get very cold, and then, maybe we'll be able to stop complaining about the heat. This is a very sweet view of the three of them walking and just getting everything done. I'm just trying to see what they're doing, because I can hear an oxpecker that in the background. It's a different oxpecker, but I was wondering if maybe the oxpeckers were going to come around here. It's a different species of bird, or if these guys are going to continue going there. They're actually very cute. Just want to see what they get up to, because it's almost like they're coming into the preschool. We've had some more people join us today. So Trainer Matt 51, good morning from Salisbury, North Carolina, USA. And Bob from Kalamazoo, good day, Ali, and happy Tuesday. Well, happy Tuesday for you too. Becky WV, morning from West Virginia, USA. Hello, everyone. You're wondering if these little ones can fly. Well, I don't think their wings are fully developed yet, so they can run very fast, and they might be able to flutter. So, thinking about the elephants. Well, elephants, you keep your feet away from these tiny little creatures. So you see, we've got both parents there now. It's just an elephant bull. That was unexpected. I didn't expect to see that big trunk there. But the parents are being very clever, and then they've actually, if you can see on the camera, they're actually dragging the chicks very quickly onto the far right side, just to make sure that they put enough distance between them and the elephant. This elephant bull is just minding his own business. He's not particularly worried about them, I think, other than trying to maybe spray a little bit of water. The elephant would actually go after the lapwing chicks or have a desire to fight them or anything like it. When it does happen, it's just unfortunate, and it just happens by mere coincidence rather than anything else. Well, in trouble? Well, hello to you from South Africa, even if you're coming to us from Washington. Glad you could join us today too, and just in time too. We've had this elephant bull just join the Blacksmith lapwing. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Party today, and they seem to be a little bit on the stressy side. They're making a little bit more noise, and then they're just definitely trying to take the as they can from them. I mean, when you're that little, you don't only have to worry about the big things that come at you, but you also have to worry about the things that fly from the sky and then come at you and try to get your little chicks. Any sort of raptor would get it, and then of course you've got genets, mongoose, and honey badgers, pythons, all sorts of snakes. So they're very vulnerable, and the parents have to be on guard and then just keep an eye out for any potential danger. I do love it when elephants just stay with the water, and they do kind of like that side spray, and just you can tell that they're just doing certain things for fun. Are you going to have now a bit of a bath? Yep, I think he is very comfortable drinking at the bar. Even the back legs, he's crossed them over. He's very relaxed, very happy, just having a very chill Tuesday afternoon. I mean, couldn't really ask for more, could you? There's enough water. The annoying little birds that were making a noise have left. All we need is maybe a leopard to come and join the party, and then that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Title Pro, well, good morning to you, and good morning from Kentucky, and hello from Alison in Liverpool, UK. Well, hello to you, Alison, as well. I think maybe the temperatures around the world are starting to be a little bit more comparable to the ones in South Africa. As I was saying earlier, it seems like the sun is going down a little bit earlier already. Today has been quite overcast, so that's potentially why everything looks so dark. I think at this, generally, if we didn't have such a big cloud cover, then things would be a little bit brighter. But it makes it a little bit more pleasant. We've had a very hot summer and lots of rain. I mean, look at this dam. This is the Nkoro Dam, and it's pretty full. So I must say, it's looking very full. I could actually spend the entire sort of half an hour that we've got for the show watching the elephants, but I do think there are other interesting things out there that we can look at. And I think the black eagle is sitting on its nest. So we could go from a very tiny little chick that's already hatched to one of the bigger, most deadly eagles that we get around in South Africa. Also quite endangered. Hello. It's very nice to see them. So if you've been wondering, this is a pair of black eagles that have come and returned to this nest after fully raising into independence or adulthood their chick from last year. And we're all very excited because they just laid their eggs its eggs, we presume, about 2 weeks ago. So hopefully, if the incubation process goes well, then by the beginning of June, then we should have a newly born black eagle. Sorry, I couldn't think of the words. I do think that, however, things are very calm and very relaxed here. And Kurs is saying that Tau has a lot of birds that have come down for a drink. So maybe if we go over to Tau and Madiko, we'll be able to see a couple more things. Because for now, we're just looking at the nursery. We're just keeping watch at just keeping watch of the black eagle until the little chick hatches, because that's going to be more interesting. I mean, there are tons of birds here at Tau. I think that's why I got confused. I wasn't expecting to see as many of them here. I mean, quite a few. So if you see, well, of course, we've got the three in the background, the Egyptian goose, that are behaving fairly well. They're not making a noise. They can be quite noisy little birds. And then we've got the African spoonbills, which are the two in the front that are together with the red legs, and the one. And what's that? Seems like there's a grebe at the background, and then there's a grey heron. Canadian, you're wondering if crocodiles go after the shorebirds. There wouldn't be a mouthful. Well, it depends. Yes and no. So something that's really, really small, maybe you'll find that crocodile concerned about them. However, with bigger birds, perhaps the size of a fully grown Egyptian goose or a heron or a spoonbill, they might try their luck if they're feeling particularly hungry. But in my experience, the crocodiles that we get around here, yes, they eat a lot of fish, especially in areas where there are a lot of reeds and salt, just because it's easier for them. But it's also, I've seen them trying to hunt more mammals than what I've seen them actually trying to catch birds. Sorry. So they do eat fish. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I can't speak. They do eat birds and shorebirds, but if it's tiny little chicks like the one that we saw at Nkoro, that's really just a mouthful and it's just a waste of energy. So they wouldn't spend their time trying to actually hunt it or invest their energy in trying to stalk it or anything. It's more a case of, if they get lucky and that comes their way, they might as well try, but if not, they're not too particularly concerned with it. So that is generally what happens. Lots of coots around there, all of them, the blackbirds with the wide forehead swimming in the background. Seems like Tau is very busy. I suspect that Tau's weather has been a lot warmer than what it has been in some of the other areas, and that's why we've got a lot of these birds, but also there was a water buck that just exited the screen, and now we've got the zebras that are coming in for a drink. So days that it's very hot, generally at this time of the day before the sun starts going down, then the animals tend to go and just have a drink. No name, you are wondering if it's normal to see a solitary elephant. Well, it is fairly normal, particularly elephant bulls. So females and little ones will be in breeding herds, and that's when you can find a group of elephants all together. But in the case of species older, so when they're 13 or so, they start their independence process, where it's like they start testing their boundaries and seeing how cool they can be, and then they want to stay by themselves. And eventually that gap between them and the herd starts becoming so big that they become fully independent. So it is not uncommon to see a fully grown elephant together, but if you do come across one, like this one over here, your chances are that it's actually an elephant bull. So this one is quite interesting. You can see it's quite an old individual. It's a nice angle because you can see the top of its temple. You see how sunken in it is. Generally an indication of older age in an animal, or that it's more of a mature animal. And if it turns around, just have a look, and then you'll see that it's also got a very rounded forehead. That's also an indication of a male elephant. So if you're trying to sex the animal, because you won't be able to see certain, not generally, certain body parts, particularly the testicles of the elephant, and you're wondering if it's a male or a female, have a look at two things. Have a look at the social grouping. Is there more than one, or are there just a few? Are there all adults, or are there little ones? And at the roundness of its head. Mary Momo, you're saying hello, and thank you for bringing the wild to Hot Spring, Arkansas. Well, I do very little, but I think Max and Kirsten, the team at Africam, do most of the job. I just come along for the ride. But I do like coming along for the ride because this is my daily dose of the African bush, because today I am not out there and about, so this is also very nice for me just to be able to see what animals are doing with their daily lives. Especially if they're being unfriendly and then they just give us their back bum, isn't it? Now that's what the elephant is doing. You see it's quite interesting, and you see how far the tail actually reaches. So imagine if you combine the tail and the trunk. This basically an elephant can swat anything that lands in its body, unlike some of the other birds. So you do have the oxpeckers, which are tiny little birds that fly and attach themselves to mammals, and then they eat the ticks. But this is a very good example as to why you wouldn't find them on an elephant. Just imagine a tiny little bird that is maybe the size of a canary, well, double the size of a canary perhaps, just getting swatted by a tail or a trunk. Don't think it would be in its best interest. So that's why the oxpeckers tend to pretty much avoid sitting on top of the elephants. You very rarely see them, but you'll see them on rhino, impala, warthog, and all sorts of other things. Buffalo, oh, they do love buffalo. I feel like this elephant he's toying with the water, don't you guys think so? It's almost like he wants to go in there, because he was drinking now and spraying the water, so I think it's almost like it's a little bit hot. And it's maybe thinking about spraying itself with some water, but maybe it's a little bit too much effort. Maybe he's just being lazy. There's also this possibility. Kim, yes, egrets can sit on elephants, but generally the elephants will allow them to sit on there. And the difference, or one of the main differences between the egrets and the oxpeckers, is that the egrets are just using the elephants for comfort and for vantage point. More often than not, if the elephants are moving or if they're in the water like in the Chobe River, then the egrets will patiently wait on top of the elephants. However, the oxpeckers, because of their feeding habits, and perhaps I should have clarified this in the beginning, and I'm sorry if I didn't, the oxpeckers are little birds that eat the ticks on the animals. So they cause a little bit of an annoyance because, of course, there's this beak, and it's almost like this pair of tweezers that is constantly going at the animal's skin trying to pluck the ticks off the body. So that, of course, annoys. It's convenient, of course, as you're getting rid of ticks, but it also annoys the animals, such as the elephants. So a lot of the times, you know, if the oxpeckers were to sit on top of the elephants and then peck at them and do these things, then the elephants would get annoyed and then they would swat them away. So I'm sorry if I caused confusion with that. And birds can sit on top of the elephants, but let's just say it depends on what they're doing. And elephants are also very quick to get rid of egrets if they get annoyed with them. So they're not shy of using their appendages to to remind everyone that it's a privilege, not a given to sit on top of the elephant. Caroline Morgan, you're saying thank you to the camera operators. I agree. We're doing a sterling job in helping us keep track of the animals. Oh, there's Elijah at the back. Are you a floppy-eared elephant? Shame. So if you can look at his ear, it looks like the top of the ear is actually bent forward. Sometimes this happens when they're little. It can also happen when the elephants are young, if they get stuck going through some thicker bushes or going through bit of a forest, or they just injure themselves. Sometimes the cartilage on top of their ears or in the back of their ear gets broken, and that's what causes the ear to flop forward. Now, it's not particularly bad for the elephant. The elephants can still survive and just lead a very normal elephant life that way, but it does impair their ability to cool down. Now, I was just saying when we were doing the pre-show checks that I couldn't believe how dry Tembe is. I mean, if we were just come from Nkoro and it just looked like a very, very wet area, I mean, you can just definitely see that the water at Tembe is going down. All of this used to be full with water, or, at least not as much. It looks like water lettuce, actually. I might be mistaken, but all that bright green that you see there, it just looks like an invasive water plant that is original from South America that shouldn't actually be around here. But, with the trade through centuries and so on, it has happened that certain plants have colonized areas where they shouldn't be. And then, of course, animals like hippos and like elephants and such things, and of course, they help spread them all around the waterways. Oh, there we go. That bright green. It's hard to tell from here, but I would go with that one because it's fairly common. Canadian, you say there's something calming about elephants. I absolutely agree with you. There is something about watching them all the time. However, there are no elephants in Tembe, and we apparently had an impala, but it seems like it's run off. But in theory, we've got some cormorants at Stony Point, and let's do Stony Point first, and then we can do Tau, if the cormorants are still there. I'm just getting fed information from the multiple eyes that are watching the different cameras, and then we've got different birds in different areas. So I think this is one of the newer cameras, and then of course we've got some, not always this guys, but we've got also some penguins that like to make an appearance, which is very nice. So we've got the ones with the white-breasted cormorant, and then turn around, the ones on the left just look like Cape cormorants, don't they? Is there any yellow there? Potentially not. But cormorants. Anyway, so it's very... Yep, okay, so I'm getting confirmation that this is a new camera indeed at Stony Point in Beatties Bay, which is very exciting. So don't be surprised if you see a penguin. I think a couple of days ago, while we were doing one of the other shows, we could actually see some of the penguins in a little one from just a different angle. So it's an exciting new camera, and it just adds something else. Because when you think of wildlife, you tend to think of terrestrial wildlife, don't you? But it's, there's a bunch of birds and aquatic creatures, and aquatic mammals, I should say, that can make an appearance on this camera. And there's also something, I feel like, as Canadian, you were saying about watching the elephants, that there's something calming about it. Well, I think it's the same with the waves, isn't it? It's just like the sway and the birds. I think it's a very nice thing to watch. I wonder if we're going to get like some hectic creatures coming around. It would be nice if we get, like a whale or some seals or anything coming in there in the next couple of days. I think time will tell. Animals seem to have adapted and not cared one bit about the cameras, which is always nice because we always like spying on them and pretend so that they can pretend that we're not around. Kirst is also saying that she'd like to see a seal on this camera. I'd like to as well. I think it would be very nice if they just plonked on some of the rocks. And I mean, we do know that the birds use them. Look how white the rocks are, and it's not because rocks are white. A lot of it is the uric acid in the birds when they urinate tends to stay in the rocks. And I imagine multiple birds coming and doing the same time and time and time after each other. So that's generally where the color comes from. Suki V, you're wondering why they're not removing the less there now. So it depends. I mean, this is just me assuming that is water lettuce. I am not sure. We would have to see it close by. But the problem with a lot of these things is that it's a natural occurrence, that these plants or some water plants, and there are some natural plants that occur in this area, that they, as the water levels go down, well, then the plants kind of take over until it dries out, and then the plants die. So unless there's there's a pumped water hole somewhere, most of the reserves, they just allow certain water holes to dry. And then even if that means that at some times of the year, then you get less animals in a particular area, because it's all part of the conservation management of a reserve. You can't have, in general, too many water holes, and a lot of people or part of the new studies or that they've tried to do is just to sort of also try and rotate where the water is in a certain area to try and spread the impact of certain species, particularly if you've got a lot of elephants, into different areas so that they don't always concentrate in one point. Kaoru, you're wondering what's the stuff floating in the water in the scene that we're looking at now? Well, it's basically algae, like giant algae, kelp forest. It's all part of the kelp forest, so this massive algae that live in the bottom of the ocean. And it's a great place for seals, pajama sharks. Oh my goodness, love pajama sharks. They are adorable. Octopus, all sorts of things that live in the water. There are some really cool and great underwater shots of all of this. And then if you haven't watched there's a little documentary. Well, you know, we can get into a whole debate about it. But for some beautiful views of what all of this looks from underwater, you can just search for a documentary called My Octopus Teacher, which is very interesting because then you get to see what all of this looks from the bottom. And just very close and convenient to the shore. Now, I can't see what those are. They just look like gulls. Come on, penguins! No. Oh, that's a person? I thought it maybe was a four-legged animal. Oh, there it is. Well, that's a nice find. Thank you, Zumi. That's basically what it looks like, or that floating stuff that you were seeing, that's what it looks when it comes out of the water and it dries out. So just massive filaments of plant material, if I can define them that way. Are we looking for penguins? We're on a penguin search. Corey, you're saying that you haven't seen in bunches like that. Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? I don't think we expect it to be that big. But it is massive. It is very gigantic, and there are entire underwater forests that are made out of it. Amberka, you're saying thank you that you always learn something new, and that is exciting. Well, I'm very happy to hear that. I feel like it's also very nice for us when you guys ask us questions, because we also learn as the naturalists that sit behind the camera and look at things. We can't know everything about the natural world, but we can try and expand our knowledge as much as we can. And for us, it's particularly exciting because I don't deal a lot with marine animals or marine wildlife, but definitely like having a Stony Point in this camera over here, because then that adds a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that you need to look into and just learn from. Oh, hello, there you guys are, the African penguins. I saw them. Hope everybody managed to see them as well. They're just playing hard to get, and they're just on the other side of the shore. I mean, the pixelation is not helping us, but they are there. I hope all of you guys saw them earlier. Coming in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ha! All of you guys hiding there. So you see that's all of the kelp at the back. And then the penguins just chilling there. I would imagine they've gone already for their hunting mission of the day, and then a lot of them just seem to be resting. I think the camera caught some of them that were on nest, and some of the chicks are getting quite big by now, I should say. There was also a stressful moment of one of the genets that came for a visit to one of the chicks, and then we were a little bit worried, or I was a little bit worried, because I mean, genets are known to be very courageous creatures, and penguin chicks perhaps are not the most aggressive creatures out there, so I was worried that something was going to happen to them, because I have a soft spot for penguins. There are two rarities of birds out there in Africa. We've got the two that cannot swim. We've got the penguins, and we've got the ostriches. The ostriches cannot fly because they're too big, but they can run very fast. And then the penguins cannot swim and cannot fly, but they can swim. I mean, the two of them, you know, the debate is always open, but I much prefer the penguins to the ostriches. I find the ostriches to be maybe not as interesting or as cool as the penguins, but don't tell them that, because they're also pretty mean, so they might just come find me after that. That's very nice. I think it's been a very nice day today. A lot of the animals out by the shores and by the water doing things and letting us gain some sort of insight into their lives. So thank you everyone for joining us today on this very short but sweet show. Hope to see you guys across next week for the next Africam show.